Hi everyone, we have another round of exciting stories for you. My name is Ifwa Akwa Harrison. In this episode of News Generation, the West African Examinations Council has released guidelines for the resit of the BECE examinations. We have them for you. Did you know every child in Ghana is supposed to be protected and cared for by parents or guardians? It's not always the case. We tell you why some children are flocking to the streets in a bid to care for themselves. And do you have enough information on the Ebola virus? What about your friends in rural Ghana? We've been finding out. All these stories and more coming up on News Generation. Please stay with us. Supported by
Cowbell with Vitarid.
Remember, you can always join us on social media. We are on facebook.com/newsgenerationgh. Also find us on Twitter at NewsGenGH. Now, the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, has released guidelines for the resit of the Basic Education Certificate examinations. Now, the examination is open to those writing for the first time and resitters. But young people will be registered as private candidates. So here is information as contained in the guidelines. And the council says unqualified candidates caught taking the examination will have their registration nullified and be barred from taking any WAEC examination for 2 years. Now, the Ghana Children's Act of 1998 says that every child has the right to life, dignity, respect, liberty, health, education, and shelter from his or her parents. But this is not always the case. Right here on the streets of the nation's capital, hundreds of children struggle to make a life on their own. Shea Adam and I spent the afternoon on the streets.
13-year-old Abdel Nasser begs to make a living. He's here the whole day. We speak to him, the camera a distance away, and he tells his story. Nasser is from Niger, but has lived in Ghana almost all his life. We find out he was only 2 when he was brought to Accra by his brother, who, according to Nasser, is visually impaired. His brother, who we couldn't meet, also survives through begging. In fact, that's how Nasser got his wheelchair. The days are long. This is now Nasser's territory, and he does everything he has to do here. So what has kept Nasser in this wheelchair since infancy?
I was injected when I was very young back in Niger, and it paralyzed my legs.
He tells us he wishes to go to school after we ask him, but after trying to find out about a possible future career, even if he is sponsored, and all we get is a smile. After all, he's only known a life of begging. Nasser claims his father, who still lives in Niger, also begs. His mother does odd jobs. It may look like Nasser is on the streets alone, but he is not. 17-year-old Abdullahi, who says he is from Nigeria, brings Nasser here every morning. Abdullahi pushes Nasser from Zongo, a suburb of Accra downtown, here to beg. He says he is here visiting his brother, who sells meat in town and has been in Accra for 3 months. Abdullahi's dream is to study the Holy Quran to the highest level in order to propagate his religion, Islam.
I have already made my mind to study the Holy Quran. So when I finish without a job, I will also teach others.
Abdullahi says formal education was not for him, and so he dropped out. He therefore insists in pursuing this dream even if he is offered assistance to do something else in future. It's the end of another successful working day for Abdullahi and Nasser. They now meet up with another group, and this is where our inquiry into their lives come to an end. The obviously more mature group are unhappy with our presence. Abdullahi and Nasser have now decided they don't want us following them home as originally intended, so we leave them to go off to Zongo, where they live, to return again tomorrow. There's another story to tell, that of 14-year-old Samuel. He lives in the eastern region with his grandmother and is here on a holiday. He spends his days selling lemon and lime on the streets to help his mother, who is also based elsewhere in the city, to make a living.
We're going 3 weeks.
I am here to help my mother in selling so that when I'm going back to school, she will be able to get me some money to go.
Is that why he came?
Samuel is in primary 3. He says moving around a lot has kept him behind in school, but he still hopes to become a police officer in future.
Police.
I want to become a police officer after school because I like the way they arrest thieves and other criminals.
Police station.
After doing what he can, he is also off at the end of the day.
And how one's life turns out could just be a question of where one is born. Illustrated in this documentary by the United Nations and its partners.
A tale of two Africans. This is a tale of two Africans. Wahida was born into a rich family. Kayombo was born into a poor one. Wahida's father earned at least 10 times more than Kayombo's parents. Wahida's arrival was immediately registered and she got a birth certificate. Kayombo does not know when he was born, and because he was not registered, the government doesn't know of his existence. So, Kayombo is one of many unregistered children excluded from the planning of classrooms, desks, and teachers for primary schools. Kayombo's mother struggled for many months to get him essential vaccinations. As a toddler, Wahida ate very well, getting all the vitamins and minerals essential for the growth of her body and mind. Kayombo's mother worked hard to fill her son's belly with ugali, but she could not afford fresh vegetables or meat for him. Kayombo's first day in primary school was scary because he was one of the shortest and thinnest kids in his class. His school was even more frightening. The classrooms were dark and dusty, so he read at home by dim candlelight. The single school toilet was a deep hole in the ground, and Kayombo was scared he would fall in, so he never used it. Wahida loved going to school and enjoyed playing with her friends on the school's green playground. She liked learning new things on the class computers. Wahida loved her teachers so much that she did not want to go home at the end of the long school day. Being in school for Kayombo felt like a waste of time. His teachers were never in class. Kayombo once had a severe running stomach. His mother rushed him to the clinic where he was admitted. For a week, Kayombo shared a narrow hospital bed with a complete stranger who coughed all night. When Wahida broke her wrist doing gymnastics, an ambulance rushed her to the nearest hospital where she was admitted to a private room. Wahida is now a senior manager in a bank. With her salary and bonuses, she bought a second apartment which she rents out. Kayombo sells newspapers and airtime outside the bank. Wahida is his loyal customer. Today, when Wahida went to buy airtime, Kayombo was not there. He had been arrested again for hawking. This is the story of two Africans.
The cartoon documentary Unequal Africa. Now, Ghanaian elections are won by what is known as a winner-takes-all policy. This means whoever has majority of the vote wins. This can leave a lot of valuable people with knowledge out of the governing process. While policy think tank Institute of Economic Affairs thinks more seats should be created in Parliament, 400 versus the 275 that we have now. According to the IEA, this will help create the opportunity for more groups, including women, to contribute to the development of the nation. So what do young people think? Here's what's up.
I think they should remain the 275 because the economy is high. And if they don't remain the 275 and they go in for more, they'll pay more. And our roads too are very bad. So I think they should remain the 275.
I think no, because the parliamentarians left in the parliament house, they are saying there is no space in the parliament house, so they shouldn't increase the number.
I think they shouldn't increase the parliament members because how we are seeing the things, like the economic is very hard, and I don't think the government will have enough money to pay them when they are increased.
I think they should increase it. Because if they increase it, someone would have will bring something, a good decision, so that will help in the development of the country. If those who were there would have bring something good, they would have bring it at a long time.
I don't agree. For increasing the MPs to 400 will not help, because we already have 275 competent MPs to develop the nation.
Let's check out what other stories have made headlines.
Parents and teachers are being encouraged to get technology ideas. This way, they could encourage their wards and provide the needed directions in their learning. They have also been advised to take advantage of mobile phones to get the attention of the youth. This was at a workshop on mobile ICT in education by Wise Research Institute in partnership with the Ministry of Education. Director General at Kofi Annan Center of Excellence, Dorothy Gordon, indicated, even though computers have been made available at some schools, there's a widening knowledge gap in ICT education. The Christian Health Association of Ghana has ordered its member institutions across the country to restore services to National Health Insurance Scheme cardholders immediately. CHAG instructed all of its 183 member institutions to withhold service from NHIS cardholders since the authority owes them about 50 million cedis. The move affected patients in the rural hospitals who depended on these mission hospitals for healthcare delivery. Award-winning Ghanaian rapper Sarkodie has taken on a new responsibility. The Health Ministry has named him as an ambassador for newborn care. This is part of the ministry's strategy to curb newborn deaths in the country. Sarkodie is also brand ambassador for Fanise and Samsung Mobile.
Time for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the Ebola virus.
When your kids need it all, there's only one drink that's got it. Cowbell Chocomalt. It's got the delicious taste of chocolate, the nourishment of malt, the all-round goodness of milk, and sugar for energy, all in one sachet. All I add is water, hot or cold. Now, that's real value. And that's real teamwork. Cowbell Chocomalt, 4-in-1 value with a great new taste.
Welcome back. You're still watching News Generation. Now, the conversation on Ebola continues. More than 700 people have lost their lives to the disease in some West African countries. With calls for widespread public education in Ghana, we visited Abokobi in the Ghana East Assembly to find out how awareness is among young people there.
Meet 13-year-old Jeffrey Agwete playing with his friends. They are not in school because schools are on vacation. They live in the capital of the Ghana East Assembly, Abokobi. And we are here to see how informed young people are about the deadly Ebola virus. Have you heard of the Ebola sickness?
Yes.
How did you get to hear of it?
I was told on the radio and my sister also told me.
Your sister?
Yes.
What exactly did your sister tell you about the Ebola virus?
He told me that it is a virus that kills, but it is found in South Africa by bats. Ko onana kan hile ko oba be wale ko ope batlu no obana eku.
Through radios and televisions, people have been saying it. They said when you eat maybe monkey and bats who are infected with the Ebola virus, you may also contract it. And when you shake hands with an infected person, or you come with body contact with an infected person, you may contract the virus.
Nurses come back to school. Ni America ke obane ona keje monkey ke gbeme saliva ke so ye obana ye ni ke otagbeme hu adi.
Ebola, the disease, has become more fearful than HIV and AIDS, malaria and cholera in West Africa. The speed at which it claims the lives of 8 victims has caused government in the sub-region to sit up. Countries such as Liberia and Sierra Leone have been forced to declare the Ebola virus a national issue. So far, Ghana is yet to record any case of the Ebola virus, but the country is getting ready to fight the virus. So what are young people going to do to ensure they stay free from the Ebola virus?
Avoid shaking hands with people. And when you also come back from town, you have to wash your hands with soap and water before doing all other things.
By not shaking someone's hand, by washing your hands after, playing and not eating food anywhere, just like that, like buying from most of their bochi and others.
So, any message for your mates who are unaware of the disease?
No ninka ba me jika me na mukwe. Ka me ngale tana ametesha me afa me de kanu kesamina. Alo ka ambanga gbomo. Ame fe blues na me kengale. Fane neken. Ukaba gbomo ba cha neken.
They should be careful of the food that they eat and how they greet people. Not everybody that they shake, but they should be careful.
She told them to keep themselves clean, should abstain from shaking hands with other people so that they will also stay healthy.
The response from these young people suggests the ongoing public education has to be stepped up to ensure Ghana remains Ebola-free.
So, the most deadly disease outbreak in West Africa has prompted an emergency high-security meeting in the UK. The world is talking about the deadliest Ebola outbreak and the race to find a cure.
Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone share more than just a border. They share the fast-spreading Ebola virus. Liberia and Sierra Leone have declared state of emergency because of the outbreak, and Liberia closed almost all of its borders so the spread of the disease can be controlled, but almost too late. Schools and markets have been ordered to close down, and affected communities have been isolated. House-to-house searches are being conducted to find the infected and isolate them for treatment. Passengers arriving from West Africa, especially the 3 countries, are being screened at airports in Ethiopia, Kenya and other countries for symptoms of the disease. The World Health Organization has described this outbreak as spreading too fast and has launched a $100 million special fund to tackle it. Officials from the US and UK held meetings to assess the risk of Ebola reaching their shores, and the US recalled its Peace Corps volunteers from affected countries. But the biggest risk to controlling the spread of Ebola remains ignorance, especially in rural populations. Some doctors from aid groups treating patients with the disease have been infected. Sierra Leone's leading doctor, who treated hundreds of patients, died a week after he showed symptoms of the disease. 2 American aid workers in Liberia were flown to the US, where they are said to have better chances of surviving. 2 experimental treatments for the disease have been reported to improve symptoms, and further trial tests will be conducted. Hopefully, a treatment or cure will be found soon to save lives.
And here are just a few tips to give you some more education about the Ebola virus. a little information for you about the Ebola virus. Hopefully, it will not come to Ghana. Now, we give you some exciting news from the world of sports.
Christian Atsu is expected to be confirmed as Everton's latest loan signing. The Ghanaian winger, 22, has agreed to move to Goodson Park. Personal terms are now being discussed ahead of the season-long deal. Atsu, who returned from his post-World Cup holiday on Monday, has been chased by more than 15 clubs after Chelsea made it clear they were willing to let him go back out on loan this season. Sierra Leone national team, the Leon Stars, is stuck in Nairobi following Seychelles' decision to withdraw from the 2015 AFCON qualifiers match that was scheduled for this weekend. Sources say they have moved hotels as they sort out their logistics. This follows Seychelles' immigration decision to refuse them visa entry to the country over the Ebola outbreak while on transit in Nairobi. As a result, Sierra Leone have qualified for the group stages of the 2015 African Cup of Nations. High-tech cameras have been brought in at Manchester United's Carrington training ground as new boss Louis van Gaal closely monitors players. This means every kick can be monitored by the former Bayern Munich and Barcelona coach charged with restoring the 20 times English champions back to the top after a woeful 7th place finish last season. United defender Johnny Evans said video analysis has been a key part of the club's summer tour to the United States. The boxing gloves worn by Muhammad Ali during his 1971 fight with Joe Frazier have been sold for close to $400,000. An anonymous bidder bought the gloves at an auction in Cleveland, US. The bout, dubbed the fight of the century, saw Frazier defeat Ali by a unanimous decision to become the undisputed world heavyweight champion. Ali later beat Frazier in 1974 and 1975, cementing his reputation as the greatest boxer of all time. The fight was filled with political as well as sporting significance, as Ali had been stripped of his title for refusing to join the US Army during the Vietnam War.
Time to take a quick trip around the world before we wrap up.
A Sudanese woman who fled to Italy after being spared a death sentence for renouncing Islam has arrived in the US. Mariam Yahya Ibrahim Ishaq arrived in New Hampshire on Thursday evening with her American husband and her children. Philadelphia's city mayor, Michael Nathan, welcomed her on a short stopover in Philadelphia, calling her a world freedom fighter. There was a global condemnation when she was sentenced to hang for apostasy by a Sudanese court earlier this year. Israeli forces are searching for a soldier who they believe has been captured by Palestinian militants. This comes after a 72-hour ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza collapsed just hours after it had begun. According to the Israeli military, the soldier, 23, disappeared when Israeli forces trying to destroy a suspected militant tunnel were attacked. In 2006, Palestinian militants captured Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit and held him for 5 years. A team of 70 Dutch and Australian forensic experts have finally got to work at the flight MH17 crash site in eastern Ukraine. They arrived in a convoy with Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe monitors and began setting up a base in a farm. Australia believes about 80 bodies remain at the site. Fighting is still ongoing in the region, and 10 Ukrainian soldiers were killed in a surprise rebel attack on Thursday. The fighting is what delayed the investigators from reaching the area where the Malaysia Airlines jet came down on July 17 with 298 passengers and crew. Teams of up to 500 men, women, and children have competed to build the tallest human tower. It is a tradition from the Catalonia region in Spain that dates back to the end of the 18th century. Each team carefully builds a tower with their strong and heavy members at the bottom while the lightest make way to the top. The teams have 5 rounds to build their best towers. The final score comes from the total points gained for their best 3 attempts.
So that's it for News Generation this week. Remember, you can always join us online. We're on facebook.com/newsgenerationgh. Also find us on Twitter at NewsGenGH. Let's get interactive. We'll also try and be tweeting a lot more and do that from there. Well, until next time, have a good day.
Supported by Cowbell with Vitarid.